Up here on the third chain, we've had some very fluctuating tides over the past week. A lot of negative tides, a lot of really low tides. So we've had to contend with that. If you've had the opportunity to fish up in this area, it's been pretty decent for the most part. What we're starting to see with our warmer temperatures, air temps, water temps coincide with those air temps. When you get them for 2 or 3 days, you get pretty warm air. The water temps tend to slide up. So we've been noticing that our water temps are starting out in the upper 60s and progressing to get into the low 70s. And with that, you start to see trout kind of transitioning off the mud, grass, and clump and start getting on these shell bars and shell reefs, i.e., third chain. Uh, Same thing applies over on the second chain, and if you fish all the way up to the first chain up there in on the upper end of San Antone Bay, it's the same scenario. But that's what we're seeing here. Balding or Belding's Reef all around here. We're starting to see trout show up on that. Now, it's not consistent, depending on what the day is and what the water temp is on that particular time. We're finding some fish there, i.e., the trout. We've, scattered redfish have been in there, some scattered black drum been in there. But when you start seeing those trout show up on a shell reef like that, like these that are up here on the third chain in Beldings, that's a pretty good indicator that trout are transitioning. But again, you need to, moving forward, this upcoming week, we've got a lot of wind events that are happening. I think Tuesday and Wednesday are showing pretty high, 20 plus. So you need to have some type of game plan in place that will allow you to be protected. Now, you may take a little bit of a tail whip and get into an area that you want to fish, but as long as you can safely navigate that, that's fine. That's not a problem. But the biggest thing is knowing where you can find some clean water, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that's blown out. This stuff up here on this second chain in Beldings and Carlos and the fingers and all that, it's going to be blown out. You get up on Ayers Reef, all that stuff's going to be blown out over the next couple of days. So something that you may want to put on the back burner in that particular area, and just get to an area that that you can find that clean water and be able to give yourself an opportunity. Now, can you still fish that where it's blown out? Sure, you can fish it. It's going to be really difficult because there's not a lot of protection on it. You can get back here in the lake and get up here on this back shoreline here, and you can grab some protection there. That'll probably be okay if there's enough water coming back. Like I say, we've been on negative tides now for a little over a week, or really super low tides. You can get back here on this back side of these lakes in here that's protected in that. We're behind all that riprap and fish that. And of course, you can fish the shoreline here. And if you wanted to, South Bay, Sundown Bay sets up pretty good for a heavy south breeze that we're going to be having. Eventually that's going to switch around to some north breeze, but there's not any cold air that's supposed to be filtering in. We've had some dry air over at the end of this weekend, this past weekend, so it cooled things off in the mornings, but we rebounded nicely back into the mid to upper 70s, and that's the same thing that we got coming later this week. So you may want to fish those areas off on the third chain later in the week. Maybe get up here in Sundown and fish this back shoreline here, just a little off the shoreline. Of course, like I say, we've had a lot of low tide, so it opens that up for you. Trout's been really good. Redfish have been very good in lots of different locations. Majors and minors have been our main focus on which we've looked at. We're catching a lot of fish in that knee, above knee, just below knee depth of water. Fish are hanging out and showing up in that kind of stuff. Because the main reason why, because water temps have gotten up into the 70s, so they're very comfortable in that. So something to consider as you work around up in these areas. Now, I've kind of narrowed down bait selection and choice for myself and clients that are on my boat that, providing, if they bring their own stuff or want to use whatever I have, that's fine. But I've narrowed it down for myself personally to down south lures, knock and tail lures, mirror lure, Pav lures, and coastal brew baits. Those 5 choices selections will cover anything that you need to do, throw, cover water, get you opportunities, which we're always looking for. We're just looking for those opportunities that we can find some fish and catch them. And then sprinkle in some soft dine XLs, and then some top water. That's the game plan, and that'll be that way heading further into the springtime as we continue to move through March and get into April, and then of course we get into May and then summertime pattern. But it's going to be those 5 baits, and then of course color selection is always going to depend on water clarity. What's going on with the water now? Again, over these upcoming days that we've got some high wind opportunities that are coming. That's going to be blowing 20 plus, maybe even touching in the 30s. So there's going to be lots of areas that's going to be blown out. So, this is where I would typically put on like the Little John XL, maybe have a little white or chartreuse tipped on the end of that when I get in some really dirty water, or just throw in darker baits in the down south. Dirtier water, Twisted Tea, Big Papa, Purple Rain. I haven't thrown Purple Rain in a while, but this past week or close to the weekend when we had a lot of more wind in dirtier conditions, the Purple Rain kind of showed out for us. So we're on the backside of the full moon heading into the transition moon, so we've been throwing a lot of original size and burner shad size of baits as far as the down south goes. Knock and tail, that's their normal size, 4-inch. Little John's, same thing. Haven't thrown hardly any big baits whatsoever. Not even thrown any top water. But it's just been stuck with those 16th-ounce jig heads, just working your grass line, working your edges, working your drops, working the guts, deeper edges, places like that. And that's where we're locating and finding our fish. So if you get the opportunity to be out this upcoming week, we had a spring break that was seemed like half of Texas last week. We've got another spring break this coming week that's going to be for the other half of Texas. So there will be more boats that are on the water probably as the week progresses. So just have a little patience. Don't worry. It will subside after this week, and then it'll get back to what our normal pressure on the water will be. So just take care out there. Make sure that you pay attention to what your weather patterns are doing. Do not get yourself in a bad situation. Here on the Super Flats, another great location for these lower tides and areas that we have. Lydia Ann Channel, another area too. Get on this far shoreline as you go kind of one of the back entrances or the Lydia Ann entrances for the Lighthouse Lakes. All this area out here, lots of great grass, deeper edges that are working around that. And you can even work around back here to Quarantine, heading back into this way to Morris Cummings, old Corpus Christi Bayou area. As you come back around this way, that's been pretty good. And these are going to be the areas that you're going to look at as the weather, as our water temps continue to climb. As we start getting into 70s on a consistent basis, these are the types of areas that you're really going to want to look. What I like about the Super Flats, which is in here off the point of Lydia Ann Pass, all the way back here, all the way down to Blind Pass, back by the ranch house, back that way. You've got a lot of different type of structure that's in there. Some of it does not lend itself well to fish when you have the super, super low tides, like the negative tides. That's when you want to get out here, say like on this point. You want to get out on that deeper edge, and you're fishing 3 to 5 foot of water that's out there. When you're wading, you're maybe thigh deep, maybe waist deep, but you're going to throw out to much deeper water, and those fish have been hanging out. A lot of trout been hanging off on that areas too, especially with this water temps being what they are, nice and toasty and warm, which those fish love, and they get very, very active. What I mentioned in the last one, there's going to be lots of stuff transitioning. Get a super hard cold front, which I don't see that coming. See some little stuff that'll keep it cool in the mornings, but transitions and rebounds back, by the afternoons, you're back in the mid to upper 70s, and that water rebounds with it. So what you can do is you fish those deeper edges early morning, and then if you're still on the water in the afternoon, then you get up here and you can fish shallower stuff. You can get over the grass pockets, grass potholes, all that. All this area through here. I like fishing out in front of the runway there at the ranch house. It's got a lot of great different type of structure. Then you got hard structure, you got a little bit of softness, you got grass that's in there, Got deep water access close by, so it's another one of those areas that's really versatile. If you get to fish that, it's a great location. Now, if you got any type of north wind, northwest wind, it blows it out and it makes it really difficult to fish. But when you got a southeast breeze, super protected in here, and you can fish it without any problem whatsoever. These areas here on Blind Pass, you can get up on that flat and do what you need to do up there and fish off that edge that's around that to a grass flat that's on the other side right there behind mud. Then I just like to work the shoreline back here on the super flat side. Potholes are all there. You got a terrific amount of grass that's in it. You just keep working around, just seeing whatever wind that you're going to have. Like I say, we've got a couple of wind events coming that's going to be difficult. It's going to make things difficult. And it may even deter you. You may want to stay in the flat areas, which is, I don't blame you. Getting across these open bays can be kind of interesting on particular days. But again, as I've said before, if you can navigate it safely, you'll set yourself up to get on some of these areas that are protected, and you can find some fish that are up there. Lots of baits starting to show back up. I mean, we really didn't lose a lot of bait, but there's still more bait that's coming back in now. We're going to start seeing that moving forward as we get further into springtime and as our temperatures begin to rise. Bait will begin to pour back into our estuaries, and that's a very positive thing. Lots of trout being caught, redfish, good redfish being caught. So do yourself a favor, if you're able to get out on the water this upcoming week, be safe doing it, but you'll have a lot of fun if you do get to go fish. Turtle Pen. It's one of my great areas up here in the Copano Bay area. I love fishing Turtle Pen. When you do get these big, heavy winds that come in here, our typical March is typically the time of the year for us to get those opportunities when that big south breeze starts blowing in here, ripping at 25 to 35 miles an hour. But when that happens, if you're able to get up here in the Turtle Pen area, Shell Point, Turtle Pen, I like to get back in here and allow that water to just push in on us. So you can fish it. You got a nice little back shoreline there. There's an edge that's on that. If you've walked that before, you'll know. If you've only strictly fished it from the boat, you won't realize it's there unless it's low enough that it kind of reveals itself to you. There's a couple of white pipes down here which marks an old duck blind, which is roughly about 50 yards off that shoreline. But when that water drops out and you get those super low tides, even negative tides, you can get back there by that, and that opens up that edge for you can fish. And I like to even walk it down this whole back shoreline and get back here to the gut. South breeze, southeast breeze, you can get on this shore over here on this flat, and you can walk around this little island right there, and you can fish this gut that's over Copano Creek. It's deep water that's in there, so it really allows fish to kind of drop off into it. And then, there's bait that's been working back in there. It just sets itself up really good. Now, getting from Copano Bay Bridge launch area back there, it may be a little dicey getting back there, especially coming back. You'll have a following sea going back into Turtle Pen, and it's not bad. But when you're coming back, you kind of go into the teeth of it, so it can kind of be a little rough for you. But I like to get up here on the point and then work all this area back down here. You've got grass that's scattered in there. You've got some hard pack that's in there, and the fish are starting to show back up on that kind of stuff. You've got an edge that's out there. The one thing about Copano, when you get these big winds, whether it be south breeze, north breeze, east, it gets dirty in a hurry. So that's the one thing you have to kind of contend with, and that's why I kind of touched on earlier. If you've got some baits that's got either a white tip or a chartreuse tip, even the if you like to fish with a Marker 54 has a great jerk bait, that jerk shrimp that they have, and you can bang away with that thing underneath there. Shrimp are starting to show up. The boats are starting to run and everything. So shrimp bait to use. There's some terrific artificial baits that are out there, and the Marker 54 is one of the ones I like to use as well. Maybe put that on some a little bit less experienced people that have maybe transitioning from using live bait, trying to get into the artificial world. That's an easy bait to do, and if that's something that you're considering, I would strongly suggest that you get you some of those. Tackletown, Roy's over in Corpus both carry those type of things. Again, what I mentioned earlier, the 5 baits that I'm using is down south in a variety of sizes and colors, knock and tail. Primarily in 3 colors for them. For me, it's Rogue, Greenback, and Heavy Metal are the three ones that I use for them. Mirror Lure Little Johns, and it's been Chicken, Golden Red Glitter, Kitchen Sink, all that in both the, and then Purple Demon in both the Little John and the XL. And then, of course, Pav Lures and an assorted one. They've got the rat tail baits that they have, and then, of course, Coastal Brew is another one. So if you're on the intranet that you can see those things, IG carries a lot of that stuff or shows a lot of that stuff. You can order directly from them. But they're all those baits that I just mentioned are terrific baits, great baits. It doesn't matter which estuary that you fish in. They are terrific baits. They will give you opportunities, and that's what you want. You just want to catch yourself some opportunities to find and catch fish, based on what your moon phase, what your majors and minors are doing at that particular time frame. I say we're in a transition moon. We just finished up a big moon, which was pretty good for us. We had a lot of good major underbites during the midday. The minors, either late evening or early evening, that moonrise and moonset was really good for us during that full moon. But, we had to scratch in between those bite frames. But, we were productive during those time frames in the majors and minors. And primarily through a lot of burner shad this past week, which I think, I mentioned earlier. Color X was good for us. Purple Rain was good. Bone Diamond was good. Big Papa, Twisted Tea. All those particular flavors in general did well for us. I anticipate the white ice probably start to pick up here as we transition away, get a little bit further into springtime. That white ice will be one that will be something that you want to have in your box or tied on or whatever, but have that on there because springtime's a really good time of the year for that. And then, of course, you got your soft dines, your soft dine XLs. If you're a corky person, this time of year is really good as well. So all those different baits, it can kind of get overwhelming. That's why I just kind of narrow it down to 5 baits and just looking for what's going on moon phase wise, and I'd either downsize or go back to a regular size, or maybe even when the new moon comes in, then we'll go to even something a little bit bigger. But again, weather's going to be an issue this upcoming week. Make sure that if you are out on the water, you pay attention to all that. And your tides have been really low early, and the water's been coming back gradually. But it's important for you to pay attention to that as well.